what we talk about is obscure the view and pop smoke. That helps to make the kill zone no longer a kill zone. The other thing you're probably going to want to be able to do is maneuver, fire, and maneuver. Change positions. If that ambush crew has figured out what they think is a kill zone, they probably based it on an area. And as you maneuver in that kill zone, two things are going to happen. One, the people who are aiming at you, or the people who have their claymores laid out, or their bombs laid out, you want to be able to change position. Okay? So maneuver, fire, maneuver again. Do something to maneuver. Whether you choose to maneuver and maybe try to maneuver to a better vantage point to attack the enemy force, or whether you're going to, let's say, maneuver against an enemy, or you may run into a barrier. Chances are the barriers are in the kill zone, but it may not be on the kill zone. You may be able to close some kind of a gap if any of these guys have started shooting. You want to be able to maneuver somewhere. In the protective security detail type stuff, you don't maneuver toward the enemy. You maneuver away from the enemy. You are constantly looking for escape routes. Escape routes are going to not have a barrier, or they would have a barrier that you can jump that somebody may think you weren't able to jump. Let's say you've got four-wheel drive vehicles, and your four-wheel drive vehicles are capable of jumping over certain types of freeway barriers. But in either event, you need to maneuver, fire again, do a little maneuvering. At that stage, the other thing you need to do when ambushed is produce some kind of enemy casualty somehow. Whatever you got, if you have real casualty producing weapons, somehow, some way, produce an enemy casualty. If you see enemy personnel that you can identify as enemy personnel anywhere in the area, let's say one of your guys spotted one of these guys, throw a grenade, use your weapons, produce an enemy casualty, even if that's not somebody you've directly engaged. You spotted one of these rear echelon types that's just on a long leg of the ambush, put them down. Produce an enemy casualty. You need to produce a little bit of stress among the enemy command element, because you need some guy screaming about how he got hurt. He needs a medic. You've created a time constraint where the enemy is no longer at their leisure to conclude this fight. They now have somebody who's bleeding out. You must produce an enemy casualty. Then you can choose whether or not you're going to withdraw or consolidate your forces. Remember what we're talking about, a rally point. You may be in the middle of the kill box and somebody starts yelling orders, hey, we got to hit these guys. If you were hit from here, you were hit from here, look for an area where there is less concentration of fire, okay? If you've been hit with a near ambush, and it's the near L-shaped ambush, remember how in the Anatomy Part 1 video, I talk about these guys are probably relatively close together, and they're probably in command of high casualty producing weapons. So it means that your chance of charging across this barrier may not be all that great. But if you're hearing the firing, if you see the muzzle flashes, you're going to see muzzle flashes close together. You may see the machine gun muzzle flashes, which are going to be brighter and more rapid because those are the belt-fed weapons. You're going to see the cluster of enemy fire. Probably a bad idea to charge these guys, but one thing you want to do is this, because it's the point between the two lead elements at a near ambush, and at a far ambush, it's not going to matter. You're not going to see that cluster of fire coming from somebody. But at that stage, if it's far ambush only, consolidate your forces. If it's an attack situation, you may be attacking these guys. In either event, if you see a cluster of firing happening, what you want to do is you want to get in the zone that's between you. There's going to be a smoke zone. And a smoke zone is probably closer to the defensive side. Smoke grenades don't have a delay mechanism in them, which means they go off right away, which means they start producing smoke immediately after being thrown. Fragmentation grenades have a timing device, so they always go further before they're throwing fragments. Even if it's an idiot throwing it, the grenade always goes further before it produces fragments. So we've got a smoke zone, which is close, and we've got a fragmentation zone, which is far. If these guys have initiated the ambush, they may want to throw fragmentation grenades. They have absolutely no interest in throwing smoke grenades at all, unless they become the subject of a counter ambush. These guys are unlikely to be throwing any smoke grenades at all. But they may be throwing fragmentation grenades if they feel these guys have charged up to them. So the area closer to these, they may have erected a barrier. They may have set up mines and booby traps along here. The area that's a little bit closer to that concentrated fire ambush team is also a fragmentation zone. Either they're going to be wanting to throw grenades in there in case these guys get some crazy idea of charging them, like charging out of the smoke, or these guys are throwing grenades there. So this is a place you really don't want to be. This is also where the fight started. So when somebody is going to withdraw or consolidate forces, they either withdraw to the rally point or they're going to consolidate forces and attack. My suggestion on where to attack, look for these areas of sporadic fire. Look for a hole in a barrier. It's probably irregular. There's probably a weak point. These guys may be talking to each other. They may have consolidated a little bit and figured out, hey, there was a guy hiding in the rocks here. I just put him down. Let's attack up on here. So let's say if these guys decide to attack up on here, yeah, they lose some people. At this stage in the game, my suggestion would be continue trying to move, try to engage that line, try to get behind this line, try to engage this line, and make your way back to a rally point. The other thing you may do, that's if you attack. That's if you attack the ambush. There's a whole military doctrine on attacking the ambush. And the reason you do the attack on the ambush is if you can get into this line of these kind of lower ranking, these other troops that are they're lower ranking, they're less experienced, that's why they were placed in that position on the ambush. What happens is when you get up and this becomes a fight with this guy, one, he was setting up all his cover and zones of fire to be down into the kill zone. When you're no longer in that kill zone and you're up in what he felt was a friendly zone, if these guys try shooting at you from both directions, they got a problem because they're in each other's line of fire. That concentrated area of fire, if they try to shoot at you, that's a no-go. Their command element's going to tell them, listen, don't fire, because they've mixed in. And the Vietnamese would call this grabbing the enemy by the belt buckle. This is where you've got to mix in and you're going for broke. You're dead anyway if you stayed in the kill zone. Your other guys have already taken the escape routes. For whatever reason, if you were in a position, there's some things you got to do here. One, you're going for broke. You either attack or abort the mission. At this point, you almost don't have a choice. But what happens when these guys are suddenly under attack is they're demoralized, they don't know what to do. Half their guys cannot safely engage you. You may have disabled somebody, and then you're going to deter further attack. You may deter further fighting. It depends on what's happening. So if you engage, all of a sudden, like here at this position, if we were playing one of the tabletop games like Squad Leader or something, usually at this stage, we've got 3 against 1. We've got 3 against 1, but we lose 1. At this stage, we've got 2 against 1. We may lose 1, we may lose none. We've got a survivor, but they've broken up an ambush. That's the other thing, is attacking the ambush. But remember, there's barrier elements, there's other elements in this. The other thing would have been that everybody tries to take the escape routes back to the rally point. Are you going to lose people along the way? Yeah, you are. But you try to get everybody back to the rally point. At that point, you make a decision on whether you're going to try and coordinate a new attack with reinforcements from your rally point, or whether or not you're going to abort the mission. And if you abort the mission, that's a command decision. That's a command decision that's going to be made by somebody at the rally point. On the mission, whether it's an attack or an abort, you need to consider the cost of the objectives in a matter of time, resources, and manpower. They may feel that it takes too long to bring reinforcements up here, and try to retake the objective. They may feel that the objective is worthwhile, and they do want to try and retake that. They may get reports back from somebody who engaged the enemy and decide whether or not the abort mission or to continue the objectives is worthwhile. On a mission abort, you got to realize that there's positives and negatives to that. One, it's a mission fail. You've lost people and not accomplished an objective. On the other hand, you've preserved forces, you have force preservation, you'll fight another day, and you're going to reduce friendly casualties. The thing is, depending on the value of that objective, the most valuable objective on the planet, if you lose all of your forces attempting to get it, isn't going to, it's not going to look good for your thing. So you have to make those decisions on the fly very quickly. And that's a leadership thing. And that's one of the things that separates schooled leaders from instinct leaders. And you really want to get your instinct leaders to be well educated and be able to articulate the decisions that they've made in an ambush fight situation. I can go into this a little bit more based on the questions. If I feel that somebody's just being a smart ass asking really stupid questions, I'm just going to delete it. It's been a long discussion, but this is basically, I'm trying to condense a few hours worth of classes that I would be giving, let's say, to my old National Guard unit or somebody. But as we go into L-shaped ambush, and it's a long set of responses to Haas USMC's videos on ambushes, but it's the type of training subject that it takes a while to teach it. It takes even longer to learn it and put it into practice. And if people are interested in understanding it more from the leadership element, from the command element, and what everybody needs to do in these situations, whether they're the ambusher or the ambushee, let me know. Comments, questions, everything like that, response videos, whatever you want to do.